Hey, Foot Clan, it is the 2 biggest weeks of fantasy football draft season, and you need the ultimate draft kit if you want to dominate your draft this year with every single one of our tiered rankings, all of our player breakdowns, and if you haven't heard, we are giving a portion of every single sale of the ultimate draft kit to the American Cancer Society's Crucial Catch partnership with the NFL. So help us do a good thing. Help you dominate your league. Check it out at ultimatedraftkit.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. It's just another Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, Mike the Fantasy Hitman, right?
Yes.
The triple threat of fantasy football. The triple verified threat.
That's what they say.
So a couple days in, Mike, you're still verified, I assume?
As far as I know.
How does it feel? How's life changed for you? Are you a different man? Is this like, have you reached a pinnacle of success now that you feel comfortable?
My children have never been prouder.
Really?
Of their
They're
father.
The ones that,
yeah, that's why I did it. That's what it was about.
They're very active
for
on
the children.
It was for my family.
Very active on Twitter, your children, right? I mean, they have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Oh, man, no more juice boxes.
They're like, hey, what?
Hashtag sad.
They were very confused why Dad was so happy on whatever Tuesday morning.
You're a little perky.
Yep. Pep in the step.
We have a great show for you today. Quarterback sleepers, streamers, surprises. We're going through the rest of the quarterback rankings, continuing from yesterday's show.
These are the fun guys to talk about.
I look forward to it so much because I said that I know we have a lot of new listeners, and we welcome you in to the Foot Clan, into Foot Clan headquarters. Hopefully you're checking us out via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, subscribing. Hopefully you're over at YouTube. We've been posting a lot of new content on YouTube. We're going to be doing live streams that go through YouTube and Facebook Live and Periscope, so you got to follow us on Twitter. We got content for you.
Okay? You got a social media you like? We're there.
Yeah, we're there. We're taking care of you. So welcome in. But I told these guys at lunch yesterday, like I'm tired sort of talking about Drew Brees and the last 10 years of Drew Brees because we've done that this offseason a lot. I'm
tired of greatness. That's what it sounds like.
Just
over
tired
there.
of the. I already know what you guys are going to say. If you just asked me to do the show by myself and do the voices for all of you guys, I could do the whole argument. But today we talk about the players that, for our philosophy in fantasy football, are going to be the difference-making quarterbacks in your league. These are the ones that we actually want. These are the ones you're going to end up with. Every year, Mike, what stat do you bring forth to the people that want to know about quarterback streaming and late-round drafting?
The one about how essentially
40?
Every year over 40 quarterbacks post at least one top 12 week. And reminder for the new listeners and the old listeners, there's not 40 NFL teams. That means that backup quarterbacks are getting it done in the right matchups because they touch the ball every snap. Every quarterback is throwing the ball 20-plus times. It's a replaceable position in fantasy sports. Not real sports, but thankfully, the three of us don't play in the NFL.
Thankfully,
speak for yourself.
Thankfully for them.
Thankfully,
I'm calling you out, Jalen Ramsey. I'm coming at you on the outside.
with a nice slow pass.
I'll send him your QB tape.
No.
What's your take on Andy Holloway? Sucks.
I could be added to the list.
Yeah. I mean, everyone sucks.
All right.
Says Jalen.
We'll go through more rankings. We'll each give at least one or two sleepers, and we'll talk more about the streaming philosophy, how you win your league with a streaming quarterback, with a late-round quarterback. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Here's a quick question of the day. Michael in California sent in this one. He says, hey, guys, love the show. My league mates gave me a hard time last year for being in 2 leagues. This year I promised a friend I would join his, so now I'm in 3. How many leagues is too many, and do you guys have any thought on how to juggle that many leagues?
So we got a jealousy problem here. You
It's
can't
funny
play in other
because-
leagues. Only my league.
Yeah, I felt that way as a commissioner of our main league before when I knew that one of our other owners was like in a work league for money, and I was like, oh no, don't have your focus over there. What if you don't respond to my trade offer?
Only play in my league.
Well, that's because you're a good commissioner.
Yeah,
you want the best league you can make.
That's right, Mike.
Look, the reality is, how many leagues you're in is completely dependent upon the person. I mean, I hear about these people that are in 15.
Do you have a
16
job?
Right.
Do you have a family?
For me, there's 3 is like my cap of leagues that I can fully devote, care about, think about, focus
Take responsibility
on.
for the outcome of.
Exactly. There, I'm always in, 8 or 9 leagues because you got this league over here that you're invited to, and this, some of the industry league stuff like that. But there's 3 main leagues that I care about that I know my roster at all time. I'm looking at what I need to improve, trades, all of that. And the thing is I think it's much more fun to be devoted to a few great leagues than it is to win a championship every year because I'm shotgunning 60 leagues. And it's like, oh, I got two championships out of 60.
So for you, 3 leagues is kind of the right amount of leagues to care about losing to me in.
Oh.
So, that's hard to say because the back-to-back listener league champion is me.
So here's my take on this.
Huzzah is I.
Excelsior is 3 leagues for me as well. It's different strokes for different folks, though. I know fantasy
You do not
players.
count best ball in that environment because
no.
obviously you
I
can
don't
be in
manage those, but
hundreds of those. And
I have friends in fantasy places, and they want to play double-digit leagues, and that's what they can handle. That's what they can manage. You have reached your tipping point on Tuesday night. If you're going to do waivers and you get to a league and you go,
yeah,
I'm done. I'm burnt.
Yeah.
I've set the maximum waivers. I cannot put the mental thought of what are the peak strategies for this league? What do I need to add? What do I need to block from my opponent? Which streaming quarterback am I going to pick up? If you hit that wall, you've hit too many leagues.
Yeah, you don't want to be in too many. But here, huge news. Huge. This is great.
You did want to mention
news.
something big.
What?
Hold on.
I
can get some Goffrey in here.
Everybody
listen up. However many leagues you're in, or however many leagues you think you can handle, add 1 more to that number because we are introducing for the first time
Is this
ever.
the official name?
Yes, yes. You're darn right it is.
We didn't even get to vote on this?
We were going to vote before the show, but then we started the show, so I have officially named it the Foot Clan League's Championship Megala Bowl.
Oh, my
Every
goodness.
Foot Clan – look, we talk about the footclanleagues.com all the time, right? You want to get in a great league. You want to join either a local league or an online
spit
league.
all over my screen.
This ain't a regular Megala Bowl. This is a championship Megala Bowl, apparently.
You're darn right. We can adapt the name. The name is in the works.
What is it?
Look, we are doing a massive Foot Clan. We want to find out who the best Foot Clan player is. If you think you can beat all the other listeners, prove it. Go to footclanleagues.com. For all the official Foot Clan, everybody can enter. It's completely free. There are several 96-team leagues. It's just a normal 12. All the details are there. It'll be a normal 12-man roster, ballers preferred scoring, but it's a huge tournament style where at the end of the year, out of hundreds of different Foot Clan players, there will be a champion. And you want to know what that champion gets when they win the Megala Bowl?
What do they get, Jason?
They get a 2019 Listener League entry. You didn't get in the Listener
Not
League
an
this
entry.
year?
You get a spot.
You get a spot.
Yes.
If you didn't make it in this year,
So,
just
again,
prove it.
Tell the people where to go and who is eligible to enter this.
Yes. So footclanleagues.com, that's a forum that we have made. If you go to our website, go to the forums. That is for our community at jointhefoot.com. All the
official
supporters
Foot Clan supporters.
official supporters of the Foot Clan, you can join leagues there. All you do, go to footclanleagues.com, click the online leagues, and it's pinned to the top. You can put your information in there, join the league, and it's going to be.
Jason has been talking about this.
You know
for a
what
while.
you're doing, Jason.
I hope Ray Smith knows what he's doing, the commissioner shout-out extraordinaire who will be managing this.
Preseason Week 2 starts tonight. Couple of reminders, some notes about that. Rex Burkhead's not going to play tonight. Isaiah Crowell's not going to play tonight. So keep that in mind, because tonight is the Eagles, Patriots, Jets, and Washington?
Yes.
My eyes are going to be on Terrell Pryor.
Oh.
And what happens with those DBs in that secondary and getting in his head.
Hopefully he gets to keep playing against those fifth-string DBs.
Here's a hot tip for fantasy owners. Cancel any pending trade offers you have out while the games are happening in case injuries take place.
Oh, it's a great tip.
It's a great tip. I think Brooks threw that one in there. So
nice one, Brooks.
Good on you, Brooks. Let's get into quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks.
All right, quarterback rankings, part 2. Going to walk through our consensus quarterback rankings. This is based on 6-point quarterback scoring leagues. If you want to see our rankings for standard scoring leagues, so that would be like a 4-point per passing touchdown league, you can check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. If you want to know our 1 through 10, you can listen to yesterday's show. In fact, you can even go back further than that. You can listen to the last few weeks if you want to.
I'd recommend it.
I always recommend that whether or not you have a road trip planned, you simply get in your car and just start driving around the country at this time of year and just listen to podcast after podcast.
It's a great idea.
See where you end up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll end up in Phoenix on August 24th for the live show.
Number 12. And it's number 12 because we had a couple of guys tied at number 10 yesterday. Number 12 is Phillip Rivers. Yep. We all like Phillip Rivers.
Love Phillip Rivers.
I think we all like him a smidge less without Hunter Henry, maybe. But I have him at 9. Jason has him at 11. Mike at 12. Phillip Rivers has been a reliable, high-yardage fantasy quarterback for a long time. You go all the way back to 2008 with him. He's had 8 finishes inside the top 12, so QB1 seasons. I think it's very safe to say he's going to be inside the top 12 this year. He's going to, at worst, he'll be in that 10 to 12 range. And at best, last year you got a number 8 finish from him. You've got a team that is, I think, very talented, that'll give him opportunities. Mike Williams is healthy. You have field stretchers, Tyrell Williams. You've got Keenan Allen back and healthy. There's a strong case for Phillip Rivers to put forth a great fantasy season, and with his draft position being the quarterback 13 right now in the 10th round, he's going to end up on a lot of rosters.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a smoke and value when you look at, okay, he's
your age, Mike.
He's quarterback 30. He's my Phillip Rivers?
Yeah.
Oh, don't say those things.
Does that make Phillip Rivers old, or does that make you old?
It makes me old.
Oh, okay.
Because
he's 35, Mike.
I remember when I was a young fella and watching Phillip Rivers get drafted.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not a huge value if you think of it in terms of, well, he's the quarterback 13 going off the board. He's our consensus 12. But 10th round, that's what I love about Phillip Rivers, and a guy that has the potential to give you multiple games of over 300 yards. He's one of the very few who consistently gives you multiple games in that range. His ceiling is incredible. Last year, a game of over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. It fits the late round quarterback mold so perfectly that in the 10th round, he is one of my top targets in fantasy leagues. The problem is that I play in leagues with you rapscallions.
Don't worry, I'll have Tyrod in those leagues.
Yeah,
perfect. Then I will take Rivers.
My 3 main targets this year, later in drafts, depending on how late they fall, are Phillip Rivers, Matthew Stafford, and Ben Roethlisberger. I really like those 3 to start the year. Speaking of starting the year with Phillip Rivers, 3 of his first 4 games are good matchups. Kansas City's defense is not what it was in years past.
Game's at home.
And it's at home. Then Buffalo, and week 4, San Francisco. So it's a good slate. And I also think, look, even though you've got the problem at tight end, he very well might have his best core of weapons.
Yeah, does
this
Mike Williams
season.
replace Hunter Henry?
Mike Williams is the reason, especially what's been going on in camp and the first preseason game, to make me go, I don't think the Hunter Henry thing is going to hurt him too much.
I will say the reports out of camp, while I'm saying can Williams replace Hunter Henry, the reports out of camp say Tyrell Williams appears firmly locked as the wide receiver too. I just mean make up the production loss from Hunter Henry,
especially around the end zone,
being an elite red zone option.
If one of your objections to Phillip Rivers is his age, I want to remind you about something or tell you about something. Last year he posted 9 games with a QB rating over 100. That is the most he has posted since 2008. So It wasn't – you didn't see skills degrade and other players just make up for that. He had a very good season, 4,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, just 10 interceptions. And if you remember 2 years ago, the reason he finished at 14 had a lot to do with injury and it had a lot to do with interception problems because he was doing too much. So I like Phillip Rivers. Number 13, Jalen Ramsey calls him overrated. It's Matt Ryan, quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. I have him at 13, Jason 16, Mike 14. Second year with offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian. I just listened to Julio Jones talk about the fact that he's a lot more comfortable with Steve Sarkisian this year than he was last year. A lot of optimism from Jason this season, which was not the case about Atlanta last year because the draft price and the cost and all of the expectations for Atlanta last year were too high. But not this year, right, Mike? Or Jason?
Yeah, certainly. In fact, I wanted to bring that up. I'm the lowest on him at quarterback 16, but I've been so positive on the Falcons that I want the Falcons pieces. And you might go, well, how does that line up? And this is a perfect example of why late-round quarterback is great because this is not an I'm not low on Matt Ryan because I think he's going to have a bad year. I would love to leave my draft with Matt Ryan. I'd be completely fine with that. There's 15 other quarterbacks that I think are even better this season. So, I mean, you've got a guy coming into year 2 with his system. He's a couple years removed from an MVP year where he won people a lot of games in fantasy football. I think that the touchdown rate should go back to his career average. There's a lot of reasons to buy in on Matt Ryan this year.
A couple of the negatives from last season, and there were a lot for Matt Ryan, but he only finished as a top 12 quarterback 25% of the time. But the one that jumps out to me even more, he never had a week where he finished in the top 6 at the quarterback position. The entire year, mind you, that was any week last year. And the season before, he was the number 2 overall fantasy quarterback. So since 2012, he has ping-ponged. You remember how that sounds?
Yes, we remember. It sounds like a clock. Yep, that's the one.
There's the ping pong.
But he's ping-ponged. Look, in 2012, he was number 7. Then he was number 15 in 2013. Then 7, then 19, then 2,
if
then
these
15.
trends continue.
So at least over the last 6 years, he's bounced back after those kind of – like he seems to like the polls, right?
Right.
He doesn't seem to like this medium level where he's probably, in reality, he's probably about the QB 10 to 12.
Here's the thing I want to point out. It's for Matt Ryan, it's always touchdowns. He is a yardage monster. Last year, the Falcons were 8th in overall yards of offense, but they were 15th in scoring. His MVP year, a much closer correlation, 2nd in yards, 1st in points. Go back 3 years when he was a bust. They were still 7th in yards, but 21st in scoring. If it's the touchdowns. And we talk about, or we have been talking about the outlier of Julio Jones touchdowns of over 1,400 yards and just a minuscule amount of touchdowns that will bounce back. The opportunities were there for Julio Jones. He just didn't come down with the touchdowns last year. That's the huge difference for Matt Ryan, who can become a weekly starter at the quarterback for your quarterback position.
And he is going in the 10th round, which is good value. I do want to amend one thing I said because I'm looking at Matt Ryan as a whole. I would like Matt Ryan this year. I'm totally down with him having a great season, and I completely agree that the touchdowns are going to come back to his average. However, when you're drafting a quarterback in the double-digit rounds, you do need to I pay attention a lot to that opening schedule. I just mentioned it. Phillip Rivers has a great one, and he's being drafted behind Matt Ryan right now. But the opening schedule not too good for Matt Ryan. He
No,
starts the
tough.
season, starts the NFL season off. Week 1, the first game in Philadelphia. That's a tough matchup. Carolina, New Orleans. Those first 3 games, they're not the best. I wouldn't say that should.
If you're
Eli
gonna
Manning.
catch Philly, let's catch him week 1.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Eli Manning is a guy that I believe in this season, but I would not like. He is undraftable to me if I'm in my normal. I'm drafting one quarterback because he plays the Jags. I would still be okay to draft Matt Ryan, but you just need to be aware of that opening schedule.
All right, we're going to talk about one of the guys Jason loves this season, Marcus Mariota, in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to remind you about pristineauction.com. That's pristineauction.com. They are the absolute boss when it comes to autographed NFL and sports memorabilia. What's great about Pristine Auction is you do not go to pristineauction.com and find a couple of things a day and then go, oh, those aren't my favorite players, and then leave. There are hundreds of daily auctions. Every single day there are good deals. We tell you about them on the show. Chris Godwin signed Bucks jersey, $49. That's yesterday. Tariq Cohen signed Bears jersey, $52. You want Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen? Jerseys sold for them yesterday, $92 a pop. I mean, a signed Thielen logo football, $67 yesterday. So the deals each and every day, you just browse. You just check it out. You might be able to steal something at a great price, either for you or as a gift for somebody else. I just had a groom. He did a Pristine Auction jersey for all of his groomsmen.
Ooh, very nice.
As
doing it right.
As the gift. So pristineauction.com, let them know that the fantasy footballers sent you.
Want to thank Quip for sponsoring today's show. The truth is most of us
Get Quip.
The truth is most of us were brushing our teeth wrong, not long enough. We forget to change our brush on time, and that's because most brands focus on selling flashy gimmicks rather than better brushing, not Quip. I love my Quip toothbrush.
You brought it on the road with you. I noticed that.
You're darn right I brought it on the road because I got to have it. And it's a strange thing to proclaim such love for a toothbrush. I get it, but I legitimately love it. It's got just the right amount of vibration, and it's got a built-in timer that goes off. So in the morning when I'm groggy, I know that I've brushed my teeth long enough because my toothbrush is helping me keep track of the time. The Quip was on Oprah's O list. It was named one of Time's best inventions and is the first subscription electric toothbrush accepted by the American Dental Association. You sign up for the plan. They make it easy. They take care of you at Quip because you're on the plan. They give you the new brush head when you need it. And Quip starts at just $25. If you go to getquip.com/footballers right now, you will get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/footballers. That's GETQUIP.com/footballers.
Marcus Mariota. Jason, you have him at 12. I have him at 18. Mike, 17. We're the reasonable ones because we saw last season. We saw 3,200 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions, and we're not ready to throw him up in that top 12 just yet, Jason. He only performed to top 12 standards 3 times last season. So you expect big things, big positive regression. I am a little hesitant. I need to see it. I think they'll be better, but not that much better. What do you think? Is it the legs? Is it all about them legs?
It's not all about the legs.
He knows how to use them.
When you have quarterbacks in fantasy football, like Alex Smith is a perfect example. Who, take last year out, you have to forget that he before last year he was not a very well received fantasy quarterback, but he was always producing at he was around the quarterback 15 because he rushed for 200 extra yards a year. And that's what you're going to get from Marcus Mariota. But here's the thing with Mariota and why I'm projecting him to have a really great season is because do you remember? It's almost hard to remember the narrative of how efficient Mariota was when he got into the red zone. And it's just like you can't do that. His rookie year was great. And then he went from a 5.1 touchdown percentage his rookie year and increased it, went to 5.8. But last year, and what is the NFL average? Is like 4.
It's in the mid-4s, but I wanted to break that down to make it maybe even easier for newer listeners.
Yeah, please.
So his rookie year, he threw a touchdown every 19 passes.
Yeah, there you go.
Sophomore year, every 17 passes. Last year, every 34.
Exactly. And that was well below the NFL average, even though
double.
he had prior been slightly above the
Yes.
NFL average. And it's not a coincidence that two things were true last year. One, the offense was just bad all the way around. Part of that was Marcus Mariota's fault, but part of Marcus Mariota's poor play was his injuries. He was, I mean, you could see it on the field. He was everything out of Tennessee all last year was how banged up he was, and he looks good. He looked good the first preseason. Camp's going well. I think with, look, do you like Corey Davis? Andy, you like Corey Davis, right? You believe he's going to be a good player this year? Who's getting him the ball? Taywan Taylor is a sleeper candidate for me. They now have a good, pass-catching back, a better offensive mind there. So I think that the offense can take a step forward. I think touchdown regression to the mean will happen for him, and he rushes enough to where I see like quarterback 15. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 guy, but I feel like quarterback 15 is kind of, if he was playing the whole season, that's his floor to me.
Okay, let's move on. Jared Goff coming in at 15.
Everybody's doing it.
I'm not doing the Goff. I'm boycotting the Goff. You want to know why?
Why are you boycotting the Goff?
Because at 15, I have Tyrod Taylor, and I have to bring that up. Who you coined Tyrod the Toolman Taylor.
Oh, so good.
On the Footcast.
Tyrod the Toolman Taylor. Oh.
Because I have to bring up Tyrod right now, and just because I have host powers, because you guys have him ranked so low that we don't even get to talk about him today.
To be fair,
so I'm just letting you know I have Tyrod right here in lieu of Goff.
I'm calling him Tyrod the Toolman Taylor because he's got to build himself a nice bench to sit on.
Oh!
Halfway through the season.
Get bodied.
We bet 8 games, right?
Yes.
I'm going to win that bet going to win.
No, you're not.
I'm going to win that bet going. Oh, you want in?
Oh, I want in.
Yeah!
Water bet.
Let's go. I'll take a cup from each of you if I lose.
Yeah, that's how it's going to go.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk about Tyrod Taylor a lot next week.
You are.
Yeah. Fine.
All right, so we're doing the Goff.
Yes, back to Jared Goff, who
he'll be pretty good.
He made quite the jump. Jared Goff was completely written off his rookie season. He looked flustered. He did not look like a professional NFL quarterback. Out goes Jeff Fisher. In comes head coach Sean McVay. Lo and behold, Jared Goff looks competent. He finished the year as a top 12 quarterback, including 2 number 1 performances. If you had him in championship week against Tennessee, you can thank Todd Gurley and his 80-yard reception to the house for padding those stats. But Goff is – I have him outside of the top 12. We all do. So we see a bit of regression coming for Jared Goff, who he was fine. He was fine for fantasy despite finishing at number 12. He had a lot of touchdowns where he would just toss it at the line of scrimmage or even behind the line of scrimmage, and his team would do the work for him.
Yeah, Robert Woods, Todd Gurley, and company.
And those things are just
hard to repeat.
It's hard to repeat, yes.
It's hard to rely on him, but the 2 things about Goff that I want to say is that, one, he is the definition of a streaming quarterback to me.
Sure.
A player that I'm not going to draft to be my year-long starter. I don't have any confidence that that's what I would want week in and week out. But what surprised me about him last year is if you had told me he's going to get better, I'd be like, okay. But if you told me you would have 3 weeks where he'd finish in the top 3, including 2 weeks in which he was the number 1 quarterback on the week.
Possible.
I would not have believed that possible. So because of that, and because he doesn't turn the ball over.
Well, at least last year he didn't.
Sure. Last year he was good, 28-7 touchdown ratio. But because he has the capability, because of the weapons and the offense and the mind, he's a great streaming target to me. He's an 11th round draft pick, and it's very possible he gets dropped. If someone takes him, he gets dropped and he's sitting out there on certain weeks, and I'd look for the matchups. I mean,
speaking of matchups,
all 3 of those games, I believe, were they at home, his 3 big weeks?
That I cannot tell you. I don't have this.
I thought that they were at home, but the consistency chart does not tell me.
I want to tell you about his opening schedule against Oakland. I think that's a bit of a wild card. It's on the road.
Sure.
As of right now, it's a fine matchup. But then Arizona, the Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings. Those are not matchups that I'm excited to play Jared Goff in.
So you might start streaming him from the waiver wire on good matchups down the line.
Sure. He's projected this side. The Rams are going to score a ton of points.
Here's one thing on that note. If you look at how many points the Rams scored last year and you go back through the last 20 years, every single team that has scored what the Rams have scored have taken a significant drop. Even when they were still good the following year, they take a significant drop in total points scored. The Rams aren't putting up more points or even the same points than they did this last year, and that's not saying they're going to be a bad team at all.
Are they your Atlanta Falcons pick this year?
Well, we'll have to wait till the Phoenix. I got Carolina 2 years ago, Atlanta last year, so
they added.
Not going to ruin that.
They added Brandon Cooks, so I think that's something that a lot of people out there listening are going to say. Well, they added a much better, a more consistent 1,000+ yard contributor to this team. Yes, they lost Sammy Watkins, but if you looked at the roster last year, Sammy Watkins wasn't finishing in the top 7, 8 most important players on that team.
Are you kidding me? They lost their most expensive wide receiver too. Tavon, man. Tavon Austin's gone. That's going to devastate them. Yeah, I mean, look, Todd Gurley. I've talked about the fact that Todd Gurley, while great, he had 6 receiving touchdowns. That's a rare number for a running back to have. Some of those touchdowns just aren't going to go to the house, and he's going to be fine.
They won't. But there will be improvements from guys like Cooper Kupp.
What I imagine the Goff dance is when you're on that dance floor.
When you're doing the Goff.
It's a very dad dance.
To the right.
You're not. It's not even the electric shuffle.
No.
It's just like a little shoulders.
It's a step touch.
A little hips, and that's what you're going to get on the field. You're just going to get. It's all right. Everybody can do it. Everybody can do the Goff. There's nothing special.
That's why everyone's doing it.
And you're not going to get made fun of.
Yes.
But you're not going to be celebrated. You're not going to be like, oh, he's got dance moves. You're just going to ignore it. You're going to ignore it. That's what I'm going to do with Goff.
Speaking of that, Alex Smith comes in at 16.
He added a few dance moves this last season.
He did. He hadn't even tried to dance before.
No, apparently he can twirl. He can dip.
He'd been, content just.
I feel like he pulled an Uncle Drew on us, where he is now this real seasoned veteran quarterback. We knew who he was. And you think, old man can't do anything. And then he's dunking on fools.
Last year, 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, another 355 yards on the ground.
55!
Oh!
It's been a while. I had to hit the drop.
For those who are new to the show and I've been asked, what is the evolution? What is the backstory of 55? That's why. Because every time someone says that number, I can't help myself but to sing it, and it's just dumb and has been put on the show.
Yeah, I mean, there are things.
I apologize for nothing.
There are things when you hit Phillip Rivers' age, as you have, that you just do. I mean, Jason, I was telling him yesterday, he was telling me some joke that he always tells me. Like the same joke.
Does he forget that he's told it?
I don't know. He just goes to his hits. He goes to play the hits.
It's one of those. I don't remember what it was. It was just one of those dumb things you say in response.
And then, but I pointed out to him. I go, you're becoming like one of those, like the old men who've got their go-to jokes that they say all the time. But
it devastated me.
And he was heartbroken. He's
because I grew up going like, all the older people that were like, dude, you say the same joke over and over. Like, stop it. I don't remember what the joke was because I deleted it from my brain.
Under 2 days before the joke happens again.
A couple days. Yeah, I'll take the under. So Alex Smith, look, he changes teams. He's heading to Washington. They wanted him.
They did.
They played the game with Kirk Cousins. They lost it to a degree, right? He became too expensive regardless. They went with what they viewed as, I guess, the puzzle piece, right? I feel like Jay Gruden views Alex Smith as a player he can plug into that spot, and then you worry about other things. That's kind of how I feel about Alex Smith. You're getting a player that's going to be very efficient, a player that's not going to turn the ball over and is going to be reliable to execute. But what does that mean for fantasy football? Last year, it's hard to take last year's numbers because two factors. One, he was playing on a team with, I think, better, more dynamic weapons in Kansas City. And two, it was an outlier season for him to begin with. It was not his prototypical season. But he finished in the top 12 66% of the time. He won me a fantasy championship.
Won a lot
when
of
I
people
lost
a
Aaron
championship.
Rodgers and Carson Wentz, he was reliable,
Yeah.
including playoffs. He was weeks 15, 16, both in the top 12. So
we have a long enough
what's
career.
hidden here?
We have a long enough career with Alex Smith to know that last year was an outlier, was 100% an outlier. If you look from 2013, he was the 13th. I just talked about it. He's always a wide quarterback too. He was 13, 19, 16, 22, and then 4. And the difference, if you go, well, why? What was it that made things special last year? There were two reasons. One is the fact that his touchdown rate was well above his career average. His career average is 4.6. It was
4.6 touchdowns per inning.
His touchdown rate was much, much higher than his career average, but his yards on the ground, he had 355 yards on the ground. Now, that's not abnormal for him in his career, but the year prior, he had only 134 rushing yards. And we thought,
but that was the outlier.
Right.
The 134 was the outlier.
Well, it turns out it was, but he was
now,
older.
Yeah, now he's going to be 34.
It's not planned runs with Alex Smith. He's just very athletic. He gets out of the pocket and the play breaks down and he just runs. It just happens. It's just you're going to get that.
So look back over the last 5 years. You've got 250 yards, then 500, then 130, then 355.
We don't need to do it again.
So my point is, I don't think he's going to run as much. He's a solid quarterback in 2 quarterback leagues, but I don't think his upside is there for a normal weekly play in fantasy in a single quarterback league.
I think he can return to that. To not top 3, but I think he can return to being a top 12 guy more often than not. He plays in a very friendly system for the quarterback, Jay Gruden, offenses and teams that he has been looking over. 5 of the past 6 seasons, it has produced a top 12 quarterback, including 4 of those finishes as top 10. 3 of those are top 5 at the quarterback position.
Let me put it this way. If you had to tuck a player on your bench all year to rotate in and stream, would you rather tuck away Alex Smith or Jared Goff?
Alex Smith.
Goff.
I'd probably go Goff.
I think Goff
but
will have the bigger
he'll have
games.
stream-worthy weeks. I have him ranked that way, so I got to stick with that. All right, 17. We're going to go to the replacement in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. Rocket Arm Mahomes. I have him at 17. Jason, 19. Mike, you have him at 15. He's got the weapons.
Yep.
Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce. That's the argument for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, as somebody who has been able to develop quarterbacks. Mahomes did what Baker Mayfield's going to do. He sat. He redshirted. He got an opportunity to see what the league's all about, and now he gets to come in with that experience of seeing a professional like Alex Smith. So for fantasy, what are our expectations for Patrick Mahomes? Do we expect it to be a ping-pong ball season where you have some tough weeks, some high interception totals, and then some big-time weeks because that arm, he's got 2 long bombs and his entire day is made?
I think that's a very accurate representation of how I feel about Patrick Mahomes. He oozes upside. That offense, it's sticky. It's sticky with upside.
Yeah, okay.
Because you just points. You just throw them. They're going to stick to this offense.
Okay, all right.
Come on,
Just
follow me, people.
Just trying to follow you through.
I'm interested in Patrick Mahomes. 11th, back of the 11th round, the quarterback 16 off the board. I can dig that. I can dig that of saying, okay, I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes as my guy. Does open up the season on the road against the Chargers. Not a defense I'm looking for my newish quarterback. He's not a rookie technically, but it's his rookie season. That's not the kind of opening game I want to have for my fantasy quarterback. So that does put a damper on drafting Mahomes.
Yeah, 3 of the first 4 games are on the road. Denver, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers.
Right?
That is
Really, you're going to see what he's made of in those 3 games.
And the one thing that I really
might be made of interceptions.
The one thing I really like about Patrick Mahomes, we talk about it all the time with fantasy, he has the ability to put up points with his legs. The last 2 years in college, he had 22 rushing touchdowns, 10 and then 12. He had a year of over 450 rushing yards, so he's athletic. He can get the job done on the ground, which he might need to on those road matchups, and that helps his baseline. I do think he's going to be a very valuable streamer. He'll probably be on waivers after your draft is over. And look, I mean, after that opening road game, or 2, then he's going to have week 3 San Francisco at home. That's my stream of the week. I can call it now. In week 3, my stream of the week will be Patrick Mahomes.
Well, let's talk about San Francisco. At 18, we're going to go 18, 19, 20, and then I'm going to grab a sleeper quarterback from each of you guys, and then we'll jump into the mailbag, answer some listener questions. 18 is Jimmy G. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Handsome, as Mike calls him. Look, it's got to be the looks that get him all the love, because you got 5 games last year, and yes, he won those games, but we talk fantasy football.
He's
here.
a winner.
He's a winner. I don't know if he's a fantasy winner. I've got him at 20. Mike, you're the highest at 16. In his 5 starts last season, 24th in fantasy, 16th, 11th, 4th, 11th.
It's not bad.
No, it's not.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's also a very small sample size. I think people expect him to get better, not worse. You've got Marquise Goodwin. You've got the drafting of wide receiver rookie Dante Pettis. You have Pierre Garçon's return. George Kittle's capability of ascending. Doesn't play in the easiest division.
No.
Defensively, you have to face a Cardinals defense that should be in the upper half. Very good Rams defense. I don't think Seattle's going to drop out of the top 15 either. So that's a challenge. He also starts the season at Minnesota. That'll be fun. So Jimmy G right now, he's being drafted in the 9th round.
Yeah,
he's the QB 10 off the board.
That's the problem.
That's like a no draft. I'm officially not drafting Jimmy G in any league.
I am probably with you. If you happen to be in a league where Jimmy Garoppolo does drop, then I'm interested in him. But your standard league, your home leagues, a fantasy football calculator has him going in the 9th round as the 10th quarterback off the board. I am not interested in the handsome one at that price. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that he is actually a very good quarterback.
I do too.
So, he's one of the harder guys to get a hold of. You haven't seen him for a whole year ever. I think he'll put up the yardage. My issue is if you look, historically, and you kind of saw this in the very small sample size we have, Kyle Shanahan's offenses, while he's got some great years with offensive passing touchdowns, usually they rank much higher in rushing touchdowns than they do in the passing scoring, and that's kind of what you saw last year. His pace in those 5 starts for Jimmy Garoppolo was, I mean, goodness gracious, he was almost on a 5,000-yard pace, but it was only 19 touchdown pace versus a 16 interception. Way too small sample size to actually extrapolate and say that's going to be what happens. That's not the stats that I've got projected for him.
Right.
But whenever you've got a guy going in the single digits that opens the season with a really tough matchup, who's a crapshoot? And he is. He's a roll of the dice, and they're really good-looking dice. But it's hard to take that gamble there when a couple rounds later you can grab safer options at quarterback.
Grab some dusty dice.
Number 19, Dak Prescott. From darling to disaster. That might be the description of last year's.
Accurate.
Or last season. Look, he started all right.
He started great.
He started all right.
He started the first half of the year as the number 1 quarterback in fantasy, so I would say...
Well, I mean, 12, 11, 10, 9.
But
didn't he get drafted higher than that? So for the first 4 weeks?
Sure, but he's giving you quarterback 1 week, and then he gave you a week of 2, 3, 3. And Jason's right, halfway through the season, on a points-per-game basis, Dak Prescott was elite. And
I don't want to focus on that argument because I actually believe that Dak is one of the few – he's one of the players, the wild cards, I have him at 16, that I think he could be – I'm not predicting it, but I think he could be one of those guys that all of a sudden is a top 5 quarterback.
I completely agree. And it's the second half of the season. The Zeke suspension, you want to blame that. I blame more of the left tackle injury.
Same exact time.
And yes, and I think that was the bigger problem. It looked like his replacement looked like a bullfighter, just dodging out of the way for defenders to come and destroy Dak Prescott and his face. Now, and that turned into just absolute terrible, terrible fantasy output. Dez Bryant was inefficient, even though Dak Prescott was trying to feed him the ball. That's the big question for Dak. What happens with this wide receiver crew? All the pass catchers, really, because one of his good buddies, Tony Romo's best friend, Jason Witten, gone. Dez Bryant, gone. You have Bryce Butler, gone. It's a new crew in town for Dallas. Will they be able to get on the same page fast enough that Dak Prescott can be a fantasy-relevant quarterback?
Yeah, I tend to think that he can. I lean with Andy, not that you're calling for, but he could absolutely end up as a top 5 guy. He's very Russell Wilson in the stance that it's hard for him to finish outside of, the top 10 quarterbacks when he puts up such huge rushing numbers. Over 400 yards.
He scores on the ground. He will.
6 touchdowns both years on the ground.
And on designed runs.
Exactly.
Read
well, you've
options.
got Zeke down there, and so it's like everybody's playing Zeke. And every now and then you roll him out, and he just waltzes right into the end zone. I don't think the way his touchdowns come are repeatable. That's what you're saying. They're designed for him. So, look, you're talking about a guy who so far has never finished outside of being a quarterback one. He's being drafted in the 13th, almost the 14th round. I would absolutely take a shot on Dak.
To Mike's point, the Cowboys have lost more than 45% of their targets.
Yep.
Jason Witten and Dez Bryant leaving. It's going to be whether Dak can make these guys. Can he make Allen Hurns, Michael Gallup, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, Deontay Thompson? Can he make somebody something there? Because if we believe he will, then one of those guys is going to emerge as a fantasy value as well. Number 20, Andy Dalton, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. Jason has him the highest at 15. Mike and I have him at 22-23. Last season was one to forget for a lot of different reasons. You can look at the offensive line in Cincinnati. They lost Whitworth, and that was not good.
Devastating.
3,300 yards was all that Andy could put up. 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. It was a disappointing season. He did have a handful of games where he showed you what you've seen from him in the past. I mean, he was the number 5 overall quarterback in 2013. He was the number 12 in 2016. They didn't run a lot of offensive plays. We've brought this up on the show before. It's one of the reasons Mike or Jason likes Joe Mixon this year. It's one of the reasons I like A.J. Green to reemerge as a top 5 guy this year. But Andy Dalton, what can we really expect from him? How much do you want to lean on him? Or he's pretty much a streaming guy, right?
He is for me.
Yeah, he's still a streamer. I mean, even though I've got him 15, and I think he will have a good season, I think the Bengals completely rebounded, not to being a great offense, but not being an albatross like they were last year. They're one of those teams I'm buying into their fantasy weapons at their value. I like A.J. Green. I like Joe Mixon. I like John Ross. And so, therefore, I like Andy Dalton. I think that what happened last season, the way he got started, week 1 and week 2, when week 1, he was the 37th quarterback. Keep in mind there are 32 teams playing in week 1. That's how bad he was. He was. Is
this accurate?
Oh, yeah. Do you not remember? He threw like 4 or 5 interceptions. I think he had negative points. He was so bad that he burned people. And then the Bengals.
Does that mean he finished behind like 3 guys that took end arounds and threw like a single pass?
Yeah, exactly.
He finished behind a couple punters.
Yeah. So I think it has scarred the minds of fantasy owners, and you need to make sure that you don't let those emotions factor in too much and say he's a bum forever. He's been fantasy relevant in the past. I think he's got better weapons this year than he did last year, better offensive line this year than last year. So he should I mean, he should definitely go up. I can't imagine him going down this year from last year, especially after you look at those first 2 weeks when he was the 37th quarterback and the 28th quarterback. Then they fired their offensive coordinator, and he was never that bad the rest of the season. And he finished as, the quarterback 17. So if he gets better than 17, he's left for dead right now.
All right, let's each bring forth a sleeper quarterback, somebody that you think not only could be a great fantasy value this year, but maybe somebody that could sneak into that top 12 that nobody's talking about. For me, that guy is Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is, I think, an underrated. I and Jalen Ramsey believe he is an underrated quarterback. The past 3 seasons, he's finished 14, 8, and 16. He has the best weapons he's ever had, in my humble opinion, with Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Antonio Callaway, Duke Johnson. I think the opportunity is there for Tyrod Taylor. I do believe in the conviction of John Dorsey, Hugh Jackson, that they want Baker Mayfield to redshirt this season because they have confidence in the play of Tyrod Taylor. It is just my personal belief and conviction, but I'm going to put my money where my mouth is in most of my leagues. Tyrod Taylor is going to end up my quarterback in most leagues unless he's taken away from me. He's going to end up a late round, last round quarterback.
And he'll be there for you, and the best part of that is once he's benched, you've spent so little of draft capital on him, you can easily move on. That's what's so great about the late round quarterback.
Who do you got as your sleeper, Mike?
A guy I want to talk about right now, because he's actually 21 on our list. It's Case Keenum.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
He's now the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He goes from an amazing situation with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen to a little bit of a downgrade.
Pretty good one.
But it's not bad at all with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders as your 1 and 2. Then you have the possibility of the emergence of rookie wide receiver Courtland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton, and on top of that, a good run game. Last year, Case Keenum finished as the quarterback 14. Case Keenum didn't start the year. He was not the starting quarterback for Minnesota week 1. He was thrown into action on the road against Pittsburgh in week 2, where he fell completely on his face and then recovered from the time that he was really the starter. So I'm giving him week 3 through the rest of the year, and that includes a game against Chicago where he only got to play half the game because the Vikings tried to go back to Sam Bradford. He was the quarterback 10. Yeah. He was a top 10 guy.
You want to know something funny about Denver that people don't realize? You look at Arizona, Baltimore. We just talked about the Cowboys. Maybe you look at them and you say how many targets they've lost. You know who was number 1 in targets lost? It was the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos were the number 1 team in targets lost. Yeah. Because Benny Fowler, C.J. Anderson, A.J. Derby, Cody Latimer, all the different sub-pieces they didn't replace, and they've lost the most actual targets
and replaced them
in
with
their offense.
Better players.
And so
that's
speaks
a crazy stat.
That speaks less. I mean, that doesn't really relevant for Keenum. It means more to like Sutton having a possibility of being involved, or Deshaun Hamilton. But like that whole passing offense is going to be different this year.
Didn't even talk about Jake Butt.
Addition by subtraction there.
Yeah, you spent some pristine auction money on a Jake Butt jersey.
Just wait.
Yeah, my sleeper, I mean, I've been in love with this guy lately. The last few weeks I've been talking him up. And look, I've got something. I've got a snake.
I got a snake, man.
Blake the Snake Bortles.
The one quarterback Jalen Ramsey's okay with.
Yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. Well, that's part of it, right?
Now.
Who does Blake Bortles get to practice against? Every single week, he's practicing against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. That makes you better. When you practice against the greats, you get better. He is a decent quarterback and a very good fantasy quarterback. The last 3 years, he's averaged the quarterback 8. His worst ranking was last year, the quarterback 13. Do you remember the beginning of the year for Blake Bortles, how bad it was when he was coming in? And
I feel like you need to wear the hate blockers for this segment. Because Blake,
He'll put him on
because Blake has essentially put the hate blockers on for 2 seasons and just gone about his business.
Yeah, and you know what happened at the beginning of last season when he thought he was going to be able to play with D.D. Westbrook and Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, and he couldn't. He wasn't that good. But later in the season, the second half, he brought people to fantasy championships and was very good.
Weeks 12.
I got a snake, man.
Yes, he does.
Weeks 12 through 16, he was the number 2 fantasy quarterback.
Exactly.
Say that again.
Weeks 12 through 16, number 2. And here's the deal for whatever.
Wow.
You can't do that if you stink. You cannot luck into a string of games like that where you finish as the quarterback 7, 3, 10, 6, 3. You can't luck into that.
No, so
they
Blake
just have
Blake
such
Bortles,
a balanced offense. Fournette
Yes.
gives him the ability to not be they have to account for Fournette.
I will have a lot of Blake Bortles in my leagues to start the year.
You get
especially-
Bortles, you get Tyron.
That's the clip to grab, Brooks. He's wearing the glasses, and he just said, I will have a lot of Blake Bortles. That is what you need.
Yeah, I mean, New York Giants, the Patriots, Tennessee, New York Jets, that's the first 4 games, and 3 of them are at home. I'm happy with Blake.
He's got a snake. All right, let's get into the mailbag.
Mailbag.
If you have a question for the Fantasy Footballers podcast, visit our website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can go to the More tab and click the Submit a Question button, or dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. Leave us a voicemail question. We're going to answer some Foot Clan questions right now.
Hey guys, this is Danny from Orlando. I'm just wondering, what's your temperature on Allen Robinson in a dynasty league? Would you try to move him now, or do you think there's a chance he has more value next offseason? Love the show. Thank you guys.
I'm lukewarm. That's my temperature.
He is extremely tough. Extremely tough to gauge right now.
I feel like his value. Let's ask it this way: percentage chance that it gets better or worse. Like, do you think it's more likely that his value in dynasty goes up after the season or down? I think it's more likely it goes down.
I think it's 70% that it goes up.
Okay.
I lean that it would go up as well because you'll be heading into year 2 of an offensive system. The rapport will be there.
It's so hard.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't perform for fantasy, it goes down.
Right,
It
but I
doesn't
think-
matter
I think-
about the
I think
optimistic
he'll-
argument.
But I think he'll perform well enough. I don't think he's going to, I'm not saying he's going to go up because he's going to finish as a wide receiver 1, but I think that he's going to do enough to where the following season they'll expect bigger things.
It's just been so long with missing an entire season to injury, and the one right before that happened to be a down year compared to his monster breakout season. So it's been so long.
It's been a while.
It's hard to remember how good Allen Robinson actually is.
Might be.
Was. You can say was, but 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns.
Right.
Like I said about Blake, you don't luck into those numbers.
Bobby in Wisconsin has a question about Darius Geis. How far will Darius Geis fall in a standard dynasty rookie draft now that he is out for the year? And is he worth a high pick in spite of the fact you will not get to play him this season?
He's a back of the first rookie draft pick for me now. Yeah.
Wow.
I still fully believe that in the talent, and he will be back. Guys come back from ACLs.
If you're going to have that injury, it's never you never say it's great that you did it now, but it's better now than week 10
right
for his future dynasty value.
Yeah, it's just tough to take an asset that you don't get an entire year out of. You can't help your team this season win a championship. And so when I find myself faced with the decision in dynasty startups of, am I drafting this running back he doesn't have the upside, might not have the career of guys, but I can use him to win this year, that usually always wins my tiebreaker.
Who are those guys, though? Just Royce Freeman?
Well, Royce Freeman, sure.
I mean,
Are
'cause
we talking rookie?
Penny's banged up. Michelle's banged up.
Royce Freeman wouldn't shock me if people are taking him in the top 4 now.
Yeah.
Royce Freeman's way up. Kerryon Johnson has moved way up. He's a back of the first because at that range, once you're past Cortland Sutton, you're in the hopeville of Calvin Ridley. When is he going to turn into anything for fantasy? Christian Kirk. When is it going to happen for Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many rookie running backs in general. I'm speaking more of like the startup when you're drafting with vets. And
sure, but the question was about a rookie draft.
About a rookie draft, yeah.
Oh, all right. I thought it was.
Listen to the question, Jason.
All right.
Jador in New Jersey. Would you pull the trigger on Aaron Rodgers if he falls to the 5th round? It's a good question, especially for this show. We're talking about all the streaming options. Would you grab Rodgers in the 5th? I personally probably would.
I would think about it.
It's always, there's an aspect of roster construction there.
Yes,
What did you
of
do those
course.
first 4 rounds? In most scenarios, like if I had spent a pick in the first 4 rounds, Mike, like a lot of your mocks, you've ended up with Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, then it's a no.
So then it's a firm no.
It's a hard pass.
But if I had 2 wideouts,
If you're-
2 running backs, 3 running backs and a wideout, I would probably do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Josh in D.C., my PPR league already drafted, and I ended up with a great team. Except
Uh-oh.
I have Tyler Eifert as my one and only tight end. What should I do?
You're fine.
Look, just play him until he gets hurt and then grab somebody.
Yeah, it's straight
You don't
to
need to
position.
load a guy up.
Look, half the league at least is going to be streaming tight end. You're not going to lock yourself into a bottom half guy week in, week out. Play the matchups. Tight ends are streamable from waivers.
I mentioned Mike's propensity for Gronk in the mock draft.
Yes.
If you want to try these scenarios out, just go to draft.thefantasyfootballers.com and you'll get a chance to mock draft. You get a chance to get a personal grade from each one of us. So you can see if you can get an A from all 3 of us at the same time. Draft Tyrod. Well, actually, not if you want an A.
Yeah.
If you draft Tyrod, you're not going to get an A based on that from these 2. But draft.thefantasyfootballers.com, you can check that out. It's pretty fun. It's free. That is it for today's show. We got a great one coming for you tomorrow. We'll talk some tight ends. We'll have some news.
If you want to play some best ball, you know where you got to go. It's draft.com/ballers. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.